What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, Angry Jackalope, Robert R. Ritz. And yesterday I had told you guys I had an idea for creating a new book series, and I wanted it to be, a lot more positive and actually kind of revisit the old school way of fantasy building in the vein of Tolkien, etc. Blah blah blah. Well, I'm close. I'm close, my people. And this is not going to replace the 7 o'clock show. This is an additional segment, just kind of talking about conceptually how I create worlds. Because this is not my first time actually creating a world with living, breathing inhabitants, etc., inside of a fantasy setting. I used to dungeon master years and years ago. And so, kind of sitting down and sketching out environments, figuring out, geopolitical things, and having those things ready for players so that when they popped in, they had a fully fleshed out environment is a very familiar role for me. I used to spend an inordinate amount of time building things until I realized my players, for the most part, didn't give a shit and just wanted to kill a bunch of stuff. So, but I still had done it in the past. So I figured what I would do is I would do a quick video just kind of updating you guys, showing you the thought process that I go into creating environments and some of the stuff that I've already figured out in regards to how things are going to be and crafting a world that I think people would want to be part of, right? Because that's the key here. The key here is to create an environment where the reader goes, fuck, I wish I lived here. I wish I lived in this society. And so the very first thing that I thought of was, what is it really that we all kind of crave, that we all really need as human beings? So one is to obviously be seen and respected and heard and have a voice and actually be taken seriously. And I think the other thing that human beings need in a societal point of view is purpose, right? Hey, what's up, Bronx? What's up, Garen? This is not a heavy duty video. This is an abstracted out video talking about world building, creating the next world for the next series of books that I'm going to write. And, obviously you can't create a utopian society because, as we've seen with experiment after experiment, human beings need to struggle, they need strife, they need certain types of challenges and things of that nature. You can't give them a perfect society, otherwise you have the beautiful mouse syndrome where people just go nuts and just start doing atrocious fucking things. So you got to figure out a way to make a balance where people have adversity, people have good hard work, and they have things where they feel acknowledged and accepted, and also feel like they have a purpose in building whatever it is that they're part of. So, the first thing that you have to do, this was probably the last step that I did, is kind of figure out, what the planet or what the environment looks like that they live in. And if you look at the one that's a little bottom left of the center, the 12, that's the area that is going to be first to be explored inside of the stories and everything else. And this planet is interesting in that it's called Haven. Okay? And that is kind of a hint. It's kind of a hint over the nature of this entire infrastructure here. The other thing I wanted to do was to keep things really fucking simple. I didn't want to go and say, okay, this is Xanthar, this is blah 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 blah. I wasn't trying to make things alien, too alien for the reader. There's going to be, some things that will have to be explained in the very beginning. Things such as, it's a 20-month cycle. There's 30 hours in a day, and then there's basically 10 days in a week, and a month is broken into 30 days. And in that 30 hours, how does the time break down? So you have first rise, then you have morning, you have bright sky, then you have dark fall, then you have night, and you have that deep dark, right? So there's 30 hours in the day, And those numbers make sense when you factor in there's two suns. Um, so there's two suns. That's why the first rise is the little sun that comes up, and it casts enough light for you to get up and get around, get moving, start your morning exercise, kind of get your mind set ready. And then when the main sun comes up, that's when, kind of the work of the day begins or whatever else, right? Depending on what system that you are choosing to work in. So Sanctuary 12 is this massive, massive mountain that was carved away, and water was brought from a higher area that was also artificially raised to bring water to this particular sanctuary. And the entire get down, every main city state type deal, is basically just numeric. Sanctuary 1 through Sanctuary 12. There are 12 sanctuaries. Each one is very, very different than the others. And they also have gateways that you can go in to get from one to the other. But not most people choose not to go through the gateways, and that's it's kind of fear of the unknown. That's this kind of a human nature thing. They don't know who built all these structures. They know they didn't build it. They have some new technology that they have come across and have made derivative stuff, but they understand that they do not have the ability to do what the architects did. Because if you look at number 12 and you look above it, there's a lake there that is raised up higher than the mountain that they let's see, where is it at? The mountain that they are living in. I think it's this one. Yeah, and the mountain that they are living at the base of is it's about 16,000 feet tall, and it's a big city. So it's basically like 500 square miles. It's got a 2 million people population. I mean, it's about the size of fucking LA. So imagine you have a mountain range that is encompassing LA, and it's got walls that surround it, and then that little dome that you see there, that's not a physical dome. That is you can see it. It looks like a local aurora kind of. So you'll see color shifting when it's really dark, dark. And what it is a deterrent from flying predators and any other type of pest that might try to get into the city. It doesn't stop other humans or anything else. It's just kind of a UV protection from when it's bright day, when both suns are like high noon, as an example. If you didn't have something like that, you didn't have enough UV protection. It's pretty bad for humans. It's great for plants. The flora fauna of this planet, the plant life is a lot bigger. But also, since the ambient temperature of the planet is a lot higher, you also have other animals that are a lot bigger. Hence the walls. And those walls, let's see, where is it? There it is. So the walls here, if we, oopsie, is this the one? No. Which one is it? It's this guy, right? Yes, this guy. So if we zoom in, oh, you're gonna make it hard for me, aren't you? We zoom in on this puppy. Bloop, 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 bloop. There's two sets of walls. There's an inner wall that's over 25 feet, I think. And then there's an external wall with a moat in between it. And, water is basically brought from the higher area. Boom, 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 boom. Right above 12 there. Underground into 12. And then it's pumped up from the undercity all the way to the top of the mountain, and it comes down as this massive, massive waterfall, and then the waterfall goes down these flat. I mean, the surfaces of the mountain that is flat here is like somebody took a laser and just chiseled a full mountain range, and the byproduct of that is the deserts that are on the eastern and western side. So all of the mountain ranges, you can see how the mountain ranges go for a little bit, and then they hit half of these pyramid monoliths. And then basically to the right and the left of those are these big giant sand dunes. Well, the sand dunes are the remnants and leftovers of the mountain ranges and stuff like that. And then a lot of that mountain range stuff was used to raise that lake that's back there behind it, you know. So it's actually pretty cool because the whole reasoning for that, like, there's a ton of reasons for it. One, because the ambient temperature of the planet is, probably 20 degrees hotter than the Earth, our Earth is. These sanctuaries, by the way they're designed, the mist that falls from these waterfalls and everything, they actually drop the temperature inside of the sanctuaries by 20 degrees, and they create this kind of really nice semi-tropical feel. There's like moisture in the air. It's very humid. It's really nice. Even when the dark winters come, later in the year, the way that the system pumps the water and everything else, then the water has a different approach, since it's always moving and it's coming from underground to these areas. Then there's also some temperature regulation where the water that comes down a waterfall is warm. So even in the winter months, there's no snow or anything there because it keeps the temperatures regulated. So they did some kind of a mechanism where they keep each of these sanctuaries very hospitable for vegetation growth on the inside, and also to keep the human beings alive that are there. So that's kind of cool. And so I wanted to make sure that the environment itself was stable, you know. Hey, what's up, Paula? I'm doing all right. My foot's healing, and it's just going through what it's going through, and I just have to let it do its thing. So, some other things I wanted to point out here as far as making this environment really remarkable, really exceptional, is if you look at Zone 10 as example, at one point in time, there was a gigantic wall that covered that entire region. And up near the northwest there, where there's a circle and a little dot in between or whatever else, that's a statue. There's a statue there of this one figure, and so they call that the architect, and it's a male figure. But on the opposite end of the planet over there, where you've got Sanctuary 4, to the southeast of that is the female equivalent statue. And that place is a fucking trip because there's an ocean right there that holds Sanctuary 2, 3, and 4. So there's 3 sanctuaries, and there's roads that connect them. Now these roads are elevated by these giant pylons, and these giant pylons go down. The oceans are deep. They're super, super deep. But whatever technology or whatever civilization inhabited this zone before was able to construct roads that could sit and withstand the ocean and all the other fun stuff, and be able to allow people to come from the land to go into the sanctuaries that are out in the ocean. So 3 is a perfect example of something that was built up. When you get you get there, that whole area is not natural. It's actually man-made. When you get to Sanctuary 4, you actually see pylons that came out of the ground, and there was something that sat above that whole area there for Sanctuary 4. So it's actually really cool because there's this huge mystery that nobody knows who the fuck the architects were. Like, all of the feats of engineering that they did uh, just continue to, make the inhabitants of this world just kind of go wow in awe. And the only quote unquote living remnants of the architects are two different things. There are things in every single one of the sanctuaries, minimum of three of them, that are called observers, and they are these kind of sentient statues, I guess you could say. They're mechanical of some sort, and people know they're mechanical because they've been there for generations after generations after generations. And the way that they keep law and order throughout this entire planet is there's kind of like 10 commandments. One of those is respect life. So one of the worst things you could do is kill another person, and if you do, and you're found guilty of it, the observers then will watch as the mark is placed upon your dominant hand. And you have one chance at salvation or redemption or whatever by you removing your own hand. So if you chop off that hand, you get one more chance to be part of the society. If you don't, then you're an outcast. The observers, what one observer in one area sees, all of the observers understand, and all of the gates are then locked to you. So, if you're marked as banished, you're allowed to go out one of the gates, and then one of the gates will take you to the outer perimeter of whatever sanctuary. And so, if you're in Sanctuary 12, for example, shit, you might find yourself, staring at a desert east and west of you. Your best bet would be to try to go through the mountainous range to the north or go south to the ocean, right? And try to carve out some way of surviving there. But the wildlife and the planet's inhabitants are very dangerous, very, very dangerous. So anyway, my wife was like, well, what if, you made a mistake early in life and then you realize it and you want to go back? Well, no problem. You just lop that fucking hand off, go back to one of the gateways, and go try to go through it. The observers will sense that the hand's been severed and they'll be there to greet you. And then whatever the council, the elders, and all the other stuff, and the citizens will decide, if they want to welcome you back in. Typically they do. But if there's something that somebody does that's extremely heinous, well, then they're fucked. But mostly you're welcome back into society. But if you're walking around the stump, people aren't going to necessarily trust you going forward, but they'll tolerate you, and at least you can still contribute to society and still be there. So that kind of stuff is there. The other thing that I had a dream about was in Sanctuary 12, when you're a kid, when you're about 3 years old, one of their main exports out of Sanctuary is their dogs. They have dogs that, at their shoulder, when they're standing, just on their four legs, their shoulders are sitting at about, 5'7", right? They're massive. They're big fucking dogs. And everything in this environment is huge. So, like, all of the passageways and everything else would allow a human being and the dog to walk side by side without, ever getting cramped, even in the undercities. So it's kind of neat. And the thing that I found really funny, I had a dream about these fucking dogs, is they have like a kangaroo pouch. And if you're in an averse environment where it's like really cold, like if you're in an undercities area, like deep in the mountains, it can get kind of cold. So the dog can lay on its side and you can just kind of, snuggle up inside of its pouch, and, now you're sharing body warmth with the dog, and you don't die, right? So it's really cool. And it's super soft and fluffy inside. And so there's a definite bond between man and dog inside of Sanctuary 12. And a dog can live 45, 50 years. It's not like normal dogs got like, shelf life, if they're lucky, at 13. These dogs can live, pretty long. And then the funny thing is, usually by the time that they die, whatever support that the human needed at that, as they're going through all their different developmental stages, the dog is there. And then, usually when a dog passes, the person is then, pretty well adjusted, pretty well indoctrinated in whatever it is that they're doing. It's only in their young formative years that, having a dog like that around is kind of useful, especially if you're venturing inside of some of the cave systems, because the dogs have a natural bioluminescence. So as you walk through the caves, the dogs light them up, and That's one of the things that's kind of interesting about some of the animals in this environment. So, some of the stuff is starting to flesh itself out. Um, the wife was asking me questions like, well, what happens when there's fucking evil people and bad people and blah, blah, blah. And what if they want to start abusing systems and things of that nature? And I said, well, the thing that makes this different than, say, our planet, as an example, is it's got a uniformed, universal culture, meaning everybody on the planet speaks the same language, maybe, distinct accents and stuff like that, but they all speak the exact same language. Every one of the sanctuaries has a slab that outlines a uh, common system of acceptance. Like the Ten Commandments type thing. I don't have them all fleshed out yet, but I know one of them is respect life, and that makes the stories a little bit more interesting. And I gave an example to my son. So there was a kid. He's in Sanctuary 12. He's growing up. He's got the disagreements with his dad and everything else on how things should be done. Blah blah blah. The dad is a rice farmer, and um, there's a time of year where the undercity comes up and they do active trade with the upper city as far as food, water, some other stuff like that. Not just the plain drinking water, but they got medicinal water that has healing properties and stuff like that. So they barter and they trade. And they all accept that they are all part of Sanctuary 12, but some people are in the upper and some people are in the lower. And the lower ones do a lot of mining and stuff, so they're really large guys. I mean, they're like super, super yoked out. But they call them bats because they also have super good hearing, and their eyes aren't necessarily good, but man, you can't beat them down in the lower areas. But there's a problem that they come to the upper city with, where they say, we have an animal down there that we've never seen before, and it has killed dozens and dozens of our guys. And so for the kid, that's like, what the fuck? That's crazy because these guys, the bats, they're huge. They're like big guys, and like they're pretty well known for being able to fight and everything else. So he's thinking, shit, these guys are already scared of me. What would scare them? And so time goes on, and then he's deciding, he's trying to carve out his own place, and his dad's trying to tell him, son, I really don't want you to be part of the people to go down looking for these things. It's like it's not a wise thing to do. And he's like, what do you know, Dad? You don't know anything about what I'm going through or anything. And the dad's like, look, I'm trying to tell you, there's things in there with fangs and claws and other stuff, and if you're not ready for it, it can mess you up. And the kid's like, whatever, Dad, you know what you're talking about. So kid leaves, the dad looks down and he opens his shirt, and there's like big scars on his chest from when he was young, and he just kind of smiles and shakes his head and says whatever his prayer is, hoping that his son will be fine. And then when the son goes in, this is where the stories kind of deviate from normal stories, right? Normal stories, there's a monster or something, and then people go find a monster, kill a monster. Well, he goes down with his dog, and they're all broken out into different things. So the underground mountain area is is in some ways larger than the, where is it at? I have a cutaway. World 2, maybe 3, 4, 5. There it is. So you see Undercity, Upper City. So that whole center area there is what they know, okay? But the bats are confused because they're like, there's no way this thing could be down here because we've been down here for, hundreds and hundreds of years. We've never seen anything like it. So look at a draw. The kid actually goes down one of the passageways where this thing is. And so picture like a six-legged bear, the size of, two of those London buses, those stacked buses, right? And the kid's looking at this fucking thing, and his dog is looking at it too. And the dog doesn't go bananas. The dog doesn't, charge in and growl or anything else. The dog actually kind of looks for a second and then starts biting the back of the kid, starting to pull him away. And the kid's like, what the fuck's going on? He hears this thing growling in a growl. He just feels it through his body. But behind that, he hears other growls, a little higher pitched. And as he looks behind the big, massive, six-legged bear deal, he sees hundreds of pups, other babies. And he's like, uh-oh. And so he slowly backs out of the area. you know, makes a mental note where they're at, goes back with the others, reconvenes, goes back up to the top, and starts talking with the elders. And this was one of those things that I was talking about before yesterday, where a single voice of reason is entertained and listened to. So this would be the point where, you know, people would say, okay, well, we got enough to go kill this thing. Let's get this thing out of here. It's a predator. There's 100 babies. This thing is going to really disrupt our ecosystem. Blah blah blah. So of course they start asking logical questions like, you know, is there any areas that we have where we have an abundance of, you know, deer as an example that could act as a food source for this thing, that we can get it from point A to point B? So they'll figure some stuff out, and they understand there's a desert to the right of them, desert to the left of them. There is more mountainous ranges to the north, and there is sizable, you know, wildlife up there that could be appropriate. So then it becomes an issue of logistically, how do you get a fucking thing that massive out of there? And then the other question is, where the fuck did it come from? And so as they go down there, they start realizing that something had happened, that in the earthquake or something had opened up passageways that they were unaware of, and that's how this thing had gotten in. So they basically at this point kind of kite it, you know, try to get it to go a certain way, and then, you know, also find a way to, you know, get the pups to follow the mom and everything else. So they use food, you know. So it's just a thing where the characters have to think outside the box and not resort to, let's just kill it. We're scared of it. We don't know what it is. Let's just fucking kill it. No, it's more of, wow, that's novel. That thing's not supposed to be there. It's dangerous as shit, but we need to find a way to respect life and get it out of here, right? And so, you know, that's one of the stories. That's one of the core stories of the thing with the first character. And, you know, each of those sanctuaries will have its hero stories that I aim to represent different things, you know. So the first part of the world building's done, so I have a loose idea of the different areas and stuff, and then the stories as I write them will flesh out their economies and some other stuff. And I already saw some of the technology that they have. I already saw some of the medical things that they utilize, and I was already like, just as I'm thinking these things through, go, fuck, I'd want to fucking live there. Sounds fucking great, you know. But anyway, I just wanted to share these sketches with you guys because this is the very first step. You know, you start to do these types of things, and then you kind of pick a spot that your first set of stories are going to be in, and you know, you get people kind of used to it and everything else, and then, you know, you introduce the mysterious aspects of the environment, like who the fuck built this stuff, you know, like how did they fucking build, well, more specifically, why, you know, why are things built the way that they're built? And then as the story progresses and stuff like that, then you start to slide into other areas and constantly try to create an environment where the reader is, you know, as opposed to me doing my normal stuff of, haha, I flipped the script on you and this is what really is going on. It's more like creating an environment where there are approachable issues that people in our world go through on a regular basis, but place it in an extraordinary environment and then have the reader discovering these new things, the same as a character that goes through a mysterious door and goes, wow, I never expected anything to trump Sanctuary 12. I thought Sanctuary 12 was already a feat, a magnificent feat, and then they come across something like, you know, a statue that's sitting in front of a mountain range that is as big as the fucking mountain. You know what I mean? It's like, what the shit? How did they fucking build it? You know? And then seeing seawalls and other things that, you know, normally be like, how did they get it out in the middle of the ocean? You know? Because I mean, this thing is 8,000 miles wide, so you see one road there right in the middle of the ocean there that is probably shit 400 miles straight. You know? It's like, how the fuck would somebody build that? And what kind of technology do they have available to them that would allow them to traverse, you know, 400 miles in a relative short amount of time? And you already know that the gateways, you can take a gateway from 12, for example, and go to 1, you know, but the gateways are limited. They allow 2 people to go through every 30 seconds. So anybody that had any bad ideas about kind of snaking through and doing some bad shit, it would take them a long time. And anytime somebody uses one of the gateways, there's always an observer nearby. And if anything starts to get funny, observer shuts it down. So there's a lot of different checks and balances in place. But the cool thing is there is no real quote unquote centralized government. This is a universal system where there are regional differences and stuff like that. But for the most part, whatever rules and stuff that you're used to in 12, you can kind of expect something very similar to that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right? They're all kind of got a universal system. And because every time my wife's like, well, how is this going to work on a planet? I'm like, because it's a universal system. Everybody grew up with this. Everybody accepted this as normal, you know? And so I think that is where I get to be naive and say, okay, yeah, some bad people do some stuff, but then they get their pee-pee whacked and, society continues on a good way, right? Until I get to the point where I've established all of the different zones, city-states, things of that nature, the individual heroes there, completely different stories, completely different morals, blah, blah, blah. And then, start to notice anomalistic things happening. And yes, if you are looking at around the edges there, that is a massive wall on the left, right, as well as the bottom. There's a wall there. And when you get to that wall and you look at it, if you're standing at the base of it and you look up, you can't see the end of it. Like it's like you're in a big pipe, and at the very bottom of that pipe is where you guys are at. And if you look at the very, very top, you can't see where it ends. So, it's really, really, really interesting from, their point of view is like, what's going on? Like, what is this? Like, where are we living? And that's the big mystery. What happened to these architects and everything that built this system? So anyway, I told you guys I was going to start on this shit yesterday. I put a little bit of work in on it today, and I just wanted to share with you guys. So that's that. This is not going to replace the Angry Jackalope show, but I wanted to have some fun stuff and some positive shit because, our world's just garbage right now. And so I kind of wanted to put something that was, fun, right? And who knows, maybe one day this thing will progress to the point where it's a virtualized environment and people can go jump in like Ready Player One and be in a different sanctuaries and experience those different things. I mean, that would just be a hoot and holler just to be able to escape. Say, I'm going to take a vacation and go to Sanctuary 12, But anyway. All right, guys, that's going to be it for now. Thank you, Tenchi. So I'll see you guys in about, 3.5 hours for the real show. And to be honest with you guys, I've been looking at the news. I'm looking at all this other shit. I really, 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 really don't know. Yeah, I'm doing this video early. This video right here is just a fun thing. This is me sharing world building with you guys. This is not talking about the world we live in. That's garbage. So I wanted to have some fun stuff to share with you guys, and then later on go ahead and talk about what's going on in our world. But this one on and I call this world, actually there's a name for this world. It's cool. Let me get it up here. This world's called Haven. So Haven is about 8,000 miles from left to right there. It's a lot bigger than the Earth, but it has substantial differences too. But each of the sanctuaries are exactly that. They're a sanctuary, and they foster different types of things. For example, if you're really into the arts and music and stuff, Sanctuary 1, that's the spot for you to go hang out and find your muse and get into different types of music and stuff like that. And then technology and things of that nature. If you're like a tech head and you're like scientists and stuff like that, then you're most likely going to be going to Sanctuary 3 up here in the middle of the ocean. So they got like boats, flying vehicles, different shit like that. Sanctuary 10 is probably the most mysterious of the spots, as well as 6. But these are things that will be fun to delve into and share with the readers. And 4 is a total mind melt. Like, just everywhere you look, there's these pylons that come out of the ground and they're broken. Like something was on top of it. Like there was two cities. There was a city down on 4, and then there was something above it. But whatever was above it's gone, and there's no wreckage or anything. So, where the fuck did it go? So anyway, I just thought I'd share this with you guys because as I was working on it, I was getting all kind of giddy and like, wow, this is real fun. It's like I could see like if this was like Dungeons and Dragons and shit, like how much fun it would be for the players to uh, explore and figure shit out. You know, so who knows? It might end up being some kind of pen and paper thing, or it might be a video game, or I have no fucking idea. All I know is it all starts with you putting pen to paper, and so I've started, and we're gonna start everything out in Sanctuary 12. That's gonna be where everything starts. That's where the first story is gonna happen, and it's amazing. It's amazing to look at. It's amazing. Like I could see it in my head. I could hear the roar of the waterfall. I can see that temple to the left of the waterfall. I can see, ceremonies and weddings and all kinds of stuff that happen in this. It's just really cool stuff. So it's really fun. And I think as I flesh this out and people are able to see it inside their mind, um, I think people are going to go, wow, this is something else. This is I would love to experience that. Just the fact that something was able to flatten carve a fucking mountain. A mountain that's 16,000 feet tall. It's not like a built. This is a mountain. This is a fucking thing that was carved out of a mountain. It's like what the fuck. And it has forests and you know farms on the inside, and everything is kind of structured in a certain way. It's really cool. I mean, it holds 2 million fucking people. That's a lot of fucking people, and it's self-contained. It has enough. It has enough diversity and everything else inside of it that it can feed 2 million people, water, food, shelter, everything in abundance in that spot right fucking there. It's crazy. Anyway, enough jibba jabba. I just you can see I'm excited about it. You can see I'm really excited about it. I don't know why I didn't have this thought sooner, because I think this is going to be a real fun adventure, an exercise for me as a writer. But magic really sucks. I didn't have any really bad profanity or anything else, and it took place in our world, But this is going to be a fantastical environment that doesn't have fallback mechanics like magic and stuff like that. You know what I mean? It doesn't have like a magic system to it. It's the people with their own wits, their own minds. It's like what would happen if you took, 2 million, 2 million people, humans from Earth, and plopped them in an environment, and then, there's some basic manuals and some other stuff there, but for the most part, you figure the shit out, and the infrastructure's already there, you know. So that's gonna be fun. I think that's gonna be really fun, and I'd be real curious once I have all 12 sanctuaries fleshed out to see which one most people like the most. So that will be years and years and years from now. But anyway, like I said, it all starts with the first step, and I want to share with you guys as I do these things so you guys can see how it happened. You know what I mean? All right, guys. I'll see you guys in a little bit. That's it for now. If you like it, please subscribe. Tell your friends far and wide. Tell you next time, please be good to yourself, good to each other. Go live like their fullest. Ride a bus to the wheels fall off. Have some adventures. Get some scars. All that jazz. And I will see you guys shortly. I'm out. I smell popcorn. Make a popcorn.